we're starting 20. Yeah, we kind of celebrated. Okay. I don't know how much longer.
I think the exact same thing on a conversation.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Where'd you say you were?
We're starting 20. I mean, I'll open it up. We can go check it out. Briefly. We'll open it I'm surprised you're walking. I have heard that it's just brutal.
Definitely gonna be. Thanks so much, Dawn, for pointing it out. I was trying to do some more.
We very good.
Yesterday it was just really nice. And it was like, oh, so we're just. That's how I
Whenever you guys are ready. All right, good evening. Great to see everybody. We are starting chapter 21 tonight, correct? At least that's what I have prepared, because I remember Dawson saying we can start with 21 on Wednesday. I remember that at the end of the class. But for any of those that were not here as we went through chapter 20, is there anything that you would like to rehash or hash if you weren't here that you would like to bring up? I did kind of want to just touch base on 30 and 31 before we jump into 21. Anything before I ask my questions? All right, so we will in a minute close the chapter, or close the book on chapter 21. So the theme of the book is in verses 30 and 31 of chapter 20. Now Jesus did many other signs in the presence of the disciples, which are not written in this book, but these are written so that you may believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that by believing you may have life in his name. My simple question is, did John achieve his purpose in writing this book? And that's it to you individually. Like going through it, did he achieve his purpose? Getting some head nods. If you'd like to expound on a head nod, I'd appreciate that, but don't feel obligated. And we've gone through this, as we've gone through the book, like what is something that, but the how. How has John achieved this goal for you in going through it this time? Yes, Jen.
I'm trying to think how to word this, but
I think everybody else is too, so you're not alone in that.
Okay. It's like we got to hear from his best friend,
Mm.
and I know he loved everyone, but there was something special there, and it shows. I feel like the heart of Jesus was really on display here. So that's what I got.
That's awesome. I like that. Thank you.
I like how it was really, it was specific what you put in there, because there were times that the first three Gospels kept repeating things, but John felt the need to only put some specific things and didn't really focus in on those things. So it just gave me perspective based on the other first three Gospels.
Mm-hmm. It's great. Okay. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, for me, it's just, I really have a better appreciation for the relationship that John had with Jesus, and how that is brought out, especially as we're wrapping this up, how he consistently doesn't refer to himself in the third person, but refers to him even outside of third person, just because I think he wanted to get across that there was an inner circle, and I was part of that, and there are things that I've seen that others haven't recorded that I want to make sure people know about. So it's just that's really what's jumped out at me. And then that last phrase, and then that by believing you may have life in his name. What is, big picture, what is that for us? Being saved, absolutely, yeah. Having hope, like that. There is no life without hope, and I think that's what hits me there, is that through Christ, through believing in the things that he did, and him being who he said he is and was, that we have that life and that hope in his name. Yeah, Mike.
And the biggest form of encouragement we could ever have by just that one sentence alone.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. So I think that's interesting that he wraps up 20, kind of going from story, then this thesis statement, and then to another story. So it's interesting where it's put and how it kind of breaks up the two events here. Yeah, Alan.
Your original question, just trying to mull it over and how exactly Jesus taught in parable form, in story form, right? Yet we don't necessarily see that written here, but John's portraying that in a story form, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's portraying his life in a story form as opposed to the others. And so for me, that actually resonates better. So in that regard, yeah, he's done his job.
Yeah. Well, and to that, in story form, the relationships within the story matter and give you greater context instead of just event, here's what happened. It's giving you a greater context. So that's really good. Yes, Kim.
So I think we've said this a little bit, but it's also in Jesus' relationship with John, it shows, capacity is not the right word I'm trying to think of, but his, the relationship he wants to have with us as well. So, that he loved him so much. I see so much of God's character and Jesus' character, all throughout this. So I think it's just, the hope in the relationship, I think, happens.
Good stuff. All right. Anything else on 20? Moving on. 21. Let's do the first 8 verses. And just for kind of a pace, I don't have us really getting through 14 and then because I don't want to shortchange 15 through the end either. So I had us planned to get through 14 so we can go slow and talk through that. But who wants to read 1 through 8 for me? Go ahead, Holly.
After this, Jesus revealed himself again to the disciples by the Sea of Tiberias, and he revealed himself in this way. Simon Peter, Thomas, called the twin, Nathanael of Cana in Galilee, the sons of Zebedee, and 2 others of his disciples were together. Simon Peter said to them, I'm going fishing. They said to him, we will go with you. They went out and got into the boat, but that night they caught nothing. Just as day was breaking, Jesus stood on the other shore. Yet the disciples did not know that it was Jesus. Jesus said to them, children, do you have any fish? They answered no. He said to them, cast the net on the other side of the boat, and you will find some. So they cast, and now they were not able to haul it in because of the quantity of fish. The disciple whom Jesus loved therefore said to Peter, it is the Lord. When Simon Peter heard that it is the Lord, he put on his outer garment, for he was stripped for work, and threw himself into the sea. The other disciples came in the boat, dragging the net full of fish, for they were not far from the land, but about 100 yards off.
Great, thank you. All right, so we go into another story of Jesus revealing himself after the crucifixion. So, they were, in some of the other Gospels we read that they were told to go to Galilee, and that's where the Sea of Tiberias was. So that's what puts them here. Why does John tell us who was there? And these are just questions that I had as I'm reading this. So there are no right answers necessarily. I just want to hear your thoughts on why does John go through who was there. But first, who was there? Peter, Thomas, Nathanael, sons of Zebedee, which were James and John, thank you. And then 2 other of his disciples were together. Does anybody else find that odd that, hey, we know these 5 characters, but then there were 2 others that John decides not to name and doesn't call them. At this point, I would have assumed he would have called them part of the apostles if they were part of the original 12. So I'm assuming they were not. Any thoughts on why John chooses to name these 7 people, but only 5 of them? I read some stuff that was somewhat interesting. That's what sparked the question. So like the two that were not named could be any of us, any disciples in a broader sense, and to allow us to understand that there were more than just the 12 that were still part of the group that were in a state of flux, of unknown, like what do we do now? We've heard that Jesus told Mary to tell us to go to Galilee, right? So here we are, and so we have some apostles and some that were just disciples who were there, and so that's. I thought that was interesting to think of it that way, because you just read through the names and you go and 2 other disciples and you just move on to the rest of the story. I was just curious as to why they were named. So Peter decides to go fishing. Why do we think Peter decides to go fishing?
You wonder if they've been staying at home for several days and everything, fearful to get out.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they need to either get back to their livelihood or feed their family.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, when Jesus was with them, they were living off of donations and things that were coming that route. Now that Jesus is gone, I think they're again in a state of unknown, and they go back to what they know. They know fishing. That's where I don't want to say that's where they're comfortable, but that is where that's their life. That was their life 3 years ago, and Jesus is no longer. I don't know that this gives us an idea that this is what they're going back to. I think this was just I don't know, I look at it as like, I need to go do something. I'm not going to sleep anyway. I'm going to go be out on the water.
That's what I was going to say. The Chosen, as I've said this before, has given me a very good view on Simon. I just see Simon throwing his hands up because he's just waiting for something to be happening in Galilee. He just throws his hands up. I'm done with this. I'm just going fishing. And who wants to come with me? I'm tired of sitting in the house.
Yeah. And so Simon says, I'm going fishing, and the others say, we're going to go too. And
John is full of these full circle moments, and I bring them up all the time. You're kind of sick of me saying that, but this is another
Mhm.
full circle moment. I mean, like, this is the exact story in which Jesus finds him the first time.
yeah,
I just don't think that's a coincidence.
no, there's so much in the way John wraps up this book that is more to your point of the story form and wrapping up the loose ends kind of way that this plays out. But yes, I completely agree. So they went out and got into the boat, but that night they caught nothing. Verse 4, just as day was breaking, Jesus stood on the shore, yet the disciples did not know that it was Jesus. Why does John tell us that they did not recognize him? No right or wrong answer.
Well, when they answered him no, I mean, it explains why they were just like, no, instead of just swimming, rushing to see him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great point, that to give you a little context into why their answer was so simple. Yeah, absolutely. Mike?
It makes you think this is not the first time that's happened, so in what form is he coming among people that are not going to recognize him? I mean, that's the first thing that comes to my mind, is why several people in this situation are not recognizing who he is and what he looks like.
Yeah, because it's interesting as when we start reading the next paragraph. John kind of gives us a glimpse that it wasn't 100% obvious, even when they were, the way I read it, and we'll wait to get there, but there was something that wasn't as recognizable as it was pre-crucifixion. That's kind of the way I read it. But again, to that point that, yeah, this isn't the first time that somebody didn't recognize him when they first saw him. But it's daybreak. You've been fishing unsuccessfully all night. You're 100 yards from shore. I know I'm older than they are, but right now I couldn't tell you who's 100 yards away. That's just where my eyesight is right now. So there's no way that I would be able to glance up, see somebody on shore, faintly hear their question, and be able to recognize who it was that asked the question. Why does Jesus start with a question?
Didn't you always start with questions?
Thank you. But yeah, exactly. Yes, that it's not uncommon for him to start with questions. Again, that's different than what my reaction would be. If I was looking for somebody out on the water, I would, announce who I am, and what I'm doing there. But this Jesus, always being a teacher, was different. Wanted their attention from a curious standpoint rather than a proclamation standpoint. If you understand where my mind is going, yeah, Mike.
The unique question wasn't just a question to catch any fish. It started with children.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something that, if it was me, I would go like, well, that's kind of my question for somebody on the shore, just to ask and start with that word.
Yeah. It's a good thought.
This would have helped them to recognize who it was too,
Mm-hmm. Very.
since you did
Yeah.
ask questions.
Yes. Great point. But in there, I'll say frustration and tiredness, their simple answer was no. Do you have any fish? Not, did you catch any? How are things biting? Has it been a successful night? It's, do you have any fish? Meaning, have you already brought some into the boat? They said no, and so his simple reply was, cast your net on the right side of the boat, and you will find some. Again, full circle, going right back to, what was it, Luke? I wrote it down somewhere. Luke 5, 1 through 11. I knew there was an 11 in there somewhere. Somebody read Luke 5, 1 through 11 for us.
Got it.
Go.
One day, as Jesus was standing by the lake of Gennesaret, the people were crowding around him, listening to the word of God. He saw at the water's edge 2 boats left there by the fishermen who were washing their nets. He got into one of the boats, the one belonging to Simon, and asked him to put out a little from shore. Then he sat down and taught the people from the boat. When he had finished speaking, he said to Simon, "Put out into deep water and let down the nets for a catch." Simon answered, "Master, we've worked hard all night and haven't caught anything. But because you say so, I will let down the nets." When they had done so, they caught such a large number of fish that their nets began to break. So they signaled their partners on the other side, in the other boat, to come and help them. And they came and filled both boats so full that they began to sink. When Simon Peter saw this, he fell at Jesus' knees and said, "Go away from me, Lord, I am a sinful man." For he and all his companions were astonished at the catch of fish they had taken. And so were James and John, the sons of Zebedee, Simon's partners. Then Jesus said to Simon, "Don't be afraid. From now on, you will fish for people." So they pulled their boats up on shore, left everything, and followed him.
again, John goes full circle and tells us just the I don't know, that's emotional, putting those two together, that Jesus is wrapping up his ministry and takes advantage of the opportunity to greet them in their line of work, and saying, you're not catching anything, but now you're gonna catch more than you could fathom. Yeah, Jim.
I love two things about that. I love the setup that God worked with the ocean to make sure that they would not catch any fish, because that had to be part of the setup. It's just neat to me that was intentional.
Mm-hmm.
And then, in the passage that we just read right after that, and I can't remember if you read this part, but he said, well, from now on you'll be fishers of men,
Mhm.
which is exactly what he's about to send them out to do. It's beautiful.
Yeah, yep. And a precursor of what they were about to do in fishing for men, is that their message was going to be received, and the followers of Jesus were going to grow because of that message. Any other thoughts on that?
On that section or that first part?
Whatever you want. Yeah.
I just had a quick thing I was gonna say, that, and after never mind, I lost it.
Okay, we'll come back. Whenever it comes back, we'll come back. Micah, what'd you have?
I was gonna move on to the clothing, is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. Anytime there's a clothing change, it's kind of a change of identity. And so it was interesting to me, I don't know that I was here for Jesus's garments, but it's such a cool thing when they put on the robe on him, because that was his actual identity.
Yeah.
But they didn't know that. So in this case, it's interesting because Simon hears that it's the Lord. He knows what he's supposed to be doing, and he has on his work clothes.
Hmm.
And so he takes off his work clothes and he puts on his disciple clothes.
Interesting. Good
It's
poll.
almost like he's pierced when he hears that it's the Lord. He knows he's got the wrong garments on.
Anybody else find it interesting that John not only said he beat Peter to the tomb, but now he says he pointed out to Peter that it was the Lord? Again, this subtle jab of, you're in the inner circle and you are the rock, but I'm the one that is faster and recognizes Jesus sooner. I just, again, thought that was interesting that he calls it out, again, not by his own name, but we know exactly who is being referenced there. Kim, are you back?
I'm back.
Okay.
So that's kind of where I was going with that, was that, he had shown himself to them through locked doors in these rooms, like he just kind of showed up. It seems to me like, and obviously I'm not there, but it seems to me like if I was there, I'd be looking everywhere for him. But how often do I not do that now?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just like, I cannot blame them. But part of me wants to think, if this man can just, I've seen all the works he can do, and he can just show up inside a room with locked doors, and why wouldn't he be on asking me about the fish on the shore?
Yeah.
So I guess it was just a come back to home moment, like how often do I do that to him?
Do we get caught up going back to our normal life?
Our comfortable
Yeah.
circle, and then we forget.
Great point. Yeah. Yeah, Mike.
You said about the jabs you were talking about, it just makes them feel so human, but it's a correlation back when they are arguing about who was the greatest too. And so time after time we see all these human emotions that we can identify with that they're doing and that we're reading about now.
Mm-hmm. All right, so Simon heard that it is the Lord, and recognized it then, put on his outer garment, for he was stripped for work, and he threw himself into the sea. The other disciples decided to go ahead and bring the fish in. And dragging the net full of fish, they were not far from the land, about 100 yards off. So still, the amount of fish that they were having to pull in from somewhere, it said a small boat, I think that's in our next section, was not an easy task, but yet we see the hunger of Peter to be next to Jesus, that he just goes. Like, I heard the tomb is empty, I'm going. I heard Jesus is on the shoreline, I'm going. It's just the desperation of Peter to, and I think that's why I want to spend a lot of time on 15, is to be back with the Lord. And again, a full circle moment that John closes this loose end.
Which is a contrast to Luke 5, when he says, "Get away from me,
Absolutely.
for I'm a sinful man."
Yeah. At the beginning, yes, recognizing who Jesus was in that power.
He is Lord.
Yeah.
He wants to be near him.
Yeah. Yeah. And hopefully we can see that same maturity in us, in that times early on in our faith we think, oh, I've disappointed him again, I'm going to hide, I'm not going to approach him. Hopefully as we mature, we just have that desire to be even more closely, or more close to him. Yeah. Moving on, 9 to 14 for our last 15 minutes. Can I get a reader, please? Mike, go for it.
When they got out on the land, they saw a charcoal fire in place and a fish laid out on it and bread. Jesus said to them, "Bring some of the fish that you have just caught." So Simon Peter went aboard and hauled the net ashore, full of fish, 153 of them. And although there were so many, the net was not torn. Jesus said to them, "Come and have breakfast." But none of the disciples dared ask him, "Who are you?" They knew it was the Lord. Jesus came and took the bread and gave it to him, and with the fish. This was now the third time that Jesus has revealed to the disciples after he was raised from the dead.
Thank you. Okay. So this whole next scene is next to this charcoal fire. And I know we already had the spoiler, but where did we see the charcoal fire a couple weeks ago? Peter, exactly. Warming himself, and depending on which epistle you're reading, makes eye contact with the Lord at that final denial. The rooster crows, the eye contact is made, and John tells us that it's next to a charcoal fire. So now we see Jesus at a charcoal fire offering a meal to his disciples, especially one that had denied him at a charcoal fire. Just powerful. But I thought it was interesting that there was already fish. So Jesus from the shore says, "Do you have any fish?" By the time they get to the shore, either someone else did or Jesus made fish appear on his charcoal fire. I think that's just funny if he just sat down and immediately there was a charcoal fire and fish were cooking next to it. Yeah, I don't know. Just what goes through my head. But I don't know if it was enough or he just wanted to have them involved in the process. It says, "Bring some of the fish that you have caught." So then Simon goes aboard and hauled the net to the shore. So the boat got there, everybody got off the boat, the fish were still on the boat. Now Simon brings 153 fish in the net, and what was significant about that?
The net was not torn.
Yeah.
So I guess these are not small fish.
Yeah, we're specifically told full of large fish, 153 of them, and although there were so many, the net was not torn. Why? Why this detail?
Power's still there.
Mhm.
He still has it.
Yeah, that this is not of man. This is something to this extreme. The nets couldn't have held it had not it been for Jesus. The size, the amount of the catch could not have happened. Like this nothing in this whole scenario is normal.
Also
And-
in Luke 5, the nets were breaking.
Ah,
So it still
again.
also seems to be in contrast.
Yeah. Very interesting that all this is what was breaking first is now,
And perfected.
yeah. Wow.
This, I couldn't help but think of when I gone mushroom hunting, and you are able to find so many mushrooms, like to the point where you're like, one, two, like that's what I'm imagining them happening. You know, they're there's so many, and so they have to count. Like,
Yeah.
How many would you actually get, right?
Well, and how amazed would you be if you had been in the same area for the whole night looking for mushrooms, and then
Nothing.
you turn around and there are mushrooms everywhere, so big that you couldn't. Yeah, it's just the unnatural happening of this is beyond reasonable. Like there has to be something larger going on. And then Jesus says what? Come and have breakfast. Why is that significant? They've been fishing all night, caught nothing, and then all this happens, but Jesus still takes care of their need.
Well, and so much of his teaching is centered around food too. So I mean, he's getting ready to have a conversation that's really important,
Mhm.
and nobody listens well on an empty stomach. So.
Very true. Yeah.
There you go.
He didn't want his audience hangry. Yeah.
There's also just the completion of the meal. You know, we've got the wedding supper of the Lamb, and this is the feast
Mhm.
that they have after the big moment.
An abundance. Yeah.
And I have to think for Peter, and he's already seen Jesus 2 times before this, right? But when you've heard someone and you know that you've heard them,
And there
they
hasn't
say-
been closure yet.
Right, we don't know that there's been, right.
Yeah.
So, and they say, hey, come have breakfast, like, it's prepared. That is a grace upon grace upon grace.
Mhm.
It's just, you're good.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and I think that's putting myself in Peter's shoes. If Jesus says, somebody get the fish, I'm going. Like, yeah. I'm the first to come see you off the boat. You tell me you need something, and I have the ability to do it. I'm going to go do it because I'm trying to earn back grace that doesn't need. And I think that's what Jesus is saying here. It's not earned. I'm offering it.
Another full circle moment is the whole thing that Peter denied him 3 times, and then Jesus.
We're not there
showed-
yet. Shh. Spoiler. We're leaving that all for Dawson on Sunday.
Coming distractions.
It's all good. Oh, wait. Well, no, the third, did I jump the gun on what you were saying?
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, I jumped. Now I did the spoiler.
It's
My
just
fault.
that Peter denied him 3 times, and then Jesus has shown himself to them.
3 times. And that's where we're going to stop with 3 times for tonight.
Right. He comes again.
Okay, so let's spend the last couple minutes here. We've kind of talked about this, but now John kind of lays it out. None of the disciples dared ask him, "Who are you?" They knew it was the Lord. If they knew it was the Lord, why do we need to be told that there was obviously some that were questioning it, right?
He can't look the same, there's no way. I mean, at least he's not appearing the same, or that wouldn't be in there.
Which goes back to Mary's,
Yeah. Tell me what you've done with him. Yeah, and I'll go get him. But yeah.
it just seems like every time that we haven't seen him, but every time we've seen him depicted here, there's something different about him.
But they knew how he taught.
But they knew.
Mm-hmm.
They were familiar with how he taught.
Yeah. There was a peace within them to know it was him, but there was something that was, I don't want to say that they were questioning who he was, but I don't know.
In all the pictures I've seen, he's more radiant after his resurrection.
Okay. That's what they were struggling with, is the radiance. Okay. Mike?
It's just like something that may happen to us. We know this happens, but we just have a real difficult time getting our head wrapped around it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're doubting it, even though we know we should know it, and we know the situation. And it's just like a miracle that we're seeing,
Yeah.
but we still have, hey, am I sleeping through this? Am
Yeah.
I dreaming this?
It's a great point. Yeah. I know I saw you leave on a plane yesterday, but you're here now. Like, I know this is you, but I also know what happened. That's kind of the way I'm thinking of this, that I can't believe you're here, because we've cried and we've gone through all these emotions, but yet you're here and you're offering us breakfast. So maybe that's it. But it's just intriguing that this is what's going on. But that's, I think, why John tells us that it was hard. In the moment, it was hard to understand that he was resurrected and feeding us breakfast. Yeah. That just made sense in my head. Hopefully it did
I
in
know
yours.
on the road to Emmaus, they didn't know who it was because their eyes were veiled. But then when they were unveiled, then they knew who it was.
Mhm.
So I don't know if he would have, obviously we know that we will look different in resurrection. But I don't know if Lazarus did or if Jesus did.
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting thought.
Yeah, and we didn't get an idea. Didn't get a feel that there was something different about Lazarus, but Lazarus had to stay.
Right.
Lazarus was only,
He was still a man.
Yeah.
He was going to die again.
yeah. Deep thoughts. But then at 14, this was now the 3rd time that Jesus was revealed to the disciples after he was raised from the dead. That, again, the 3, and just there's so much that John is just giving us insight to. And again, it's years later that he's writing this. So I wonder if he hasn't come across questions that says, just wait for the book to come out. just wait. There's answers coming. I just haven't worded it correctly yet. But that's the benefit of him being the last gospel writer, is to try to tie up some loose ends that people are still questioning and would still question. And I'm sure he wrote it thinking there can be no questions after people read this book. And we go, yeah, maybe there can. Can we ask a couple? But we'll end there. Good job in sticking with the plan that I thought we would do, and getting through 14. Anything else as we wrap up before anybody else comes out?
Just on top of it being 3 and that being completion, it's just like if you see it once, you're like, did I see that?
Mm-hmm.
And then you see it the second time, and you're like, yes, I did. I think I did. And then the third time, you're like, I know,
Yeah.
I saw it. That is.
Yeah.
So they could not have doubted in any way.
Good stuff. All right, so we'll start with 15 and see if we get this completely wrapped up on Sunday, or if we will extend. And then stay tuned on when we start, because I don't think they're ready to jump into 1 John yet. But
The books.
the books are, yeah, the 1 John books are in the back. They're much thinner than this one, but I would suggest everybody getting a copy and using it, hopefully like you've been using this one, with notes and marks and everything. Thank you.
She let me know. They changed somehow.
Yes.
turn your packets, booklets, to 115. We'll sing that in a few minutes. 115. Some of you may not be like me, but if you're like me, you love watching the Olympics. I enjoy seeing all the different types of sports. I enjoy seeing struggles. I enjoy seeing triumphs. It's just one of those things since I've been a kid that I've just loved and will watch the Olympics. One of the things that, the broadcasters, they love to make a show out of things and bring a whole lot of drama to certain things, and they like to amp up people that are going to be performing. And one of those this year was a male ice skater from the U.S. And I'm going to butcher his name because I don't remember it well, but Ilya, I want to say. Anyway, he was supposed to be this fabulous show, because I guess he normally is. I don't watch ice skating typically, so I don't know these things other than the Olympics. And anyway, he's done so well in his sport that he has been given a nickname that I don't think is deserving of anyone, but he is considered the quad god, is what people call him, because he can go up and spin 4 times and then come down on his ice skates, which is ridiculously crazy that I can't even do one hardly, right? But obviously he's trained and he's practiced, and he can do them consecutively in a program. And I'm not going to go into lots of details, but evidently they always have a short program and a long program, and he did well in the short program. The long program came later. The long program did not go well for him, even though he was expected to be the one getting the gold medal. What place did he get? He got 8th. And you think, that's fabulous. But for the person that is supposed to do the best. And afterwards, they asked him, what is it what do you think happened, basically? And he's like, I don't know. I think I probably was just more confident in myself than I really should have been. And you could see that the emotion that he had at that moment. Like, he was devastated. But the realization came to him that I'm not as good as I really think I am. On the biggest stage that there is, he failed. He failed. And I can't help but think of, for us, in our triumphs that we have, the things that we're great at, the things that God has put so much into us, where can we take that? And where can others around us see it and promote us even higher than what we should, right? So it's a twofold thing that I wanted to talk about tonight, is the fact that we first, as the audience of somebody seeing, don't put them up on a pedestal, right? And then second, if we're that person that is getting all these compliments over and over and over again, be careful, because there is a fall. I was going to go to Proverbs chapter 22. there's several times that the proverb writer, probably Solomon, reminds us of where we need to be in the greater scheme of things. Proverbs 22, looking at verses, I'm going to start with actually verse 1. A good name is to be chosen rather than great riches. The favor is better than silver or gold. The rich and the poor meet together. The Lord is the maker of them all. The prudent sees danger and hides himself, but the simple go on and suffer for it. The reward for humility and fear of the Lord is riches and honor and life. Thorns and snares are in the way of the crooked. Whoever guards his soul will keep far from them. We're not to be looking for accolades. We're not looking for the gold or the silver. But we need to do what? The reward, it says in verse 4, for humility and fear of the Lord is riches and honor and life. That's where we need to focus. That's where we need to strive. That's where our energy needs to go towards, is being humble, fearing the Lord, and he'll provide us riches and honor and life. So just a few thoughts for you tonight. Things that we see and we encounter in our lives, whether it be in a book, whether it be in the movies, whether it be in real life, we can observe them and see the spiritual applications, and I want us to look for those tomorrow, Friday, Saturday. I want us to look, what are those aha moments for me? What can I see that the Lord is trying to share with me? God is so good. We're going to sing this. Jesus is real. And that one to me is what we have been studying in the book of John, is how real Jesus is. And then to the part that we should see beyond how he is real, he saved my soul. I praise his name. So let's do that tonight. All right, let's stand.
So
Precious Lord and Father above, we are mindful of how wonderful you are. We are so blessed. We're so grateful that you have provided us times this week to be reminded of how you are in our lives and how you have provided for us and how you have cared for us. Things may not have gone perfect. Things may not have gone our way. But hopefully at some point in time we can realize that you're still there and that we have assurance that you're with us if we abide with you. Please bless us as we leave this hour and be reminded of how wonderful your Son is and how he needs to mold us and shape us and to guide our lives. We're also mindful of those that are going to be having surgery soon. Be with London. Take care of her tomorrow as she has surgery and continue to give her healing as she mends from that. We ask your prayers upon those that we've mentioned that continue to struggle, whether it be Kevin Heaton's brother Everett, whether it be Steve Jones and ongoing cancer, Avery Phillips and her cancer, whether it be Isolde Reed and her cancer. There's so many of us that have had people in our lives that have struggled. Continue to be with the families there at Greencastle. Take care of them and be with Heather specifically as she's learning of all the cancer that she's received lately. Father, take care of John Odom's Uncle Tom with his cancer. Be with his brother Sean as he recovers from the things that he's been entrapped in this life. Take care of Michaela. Be with her and continue to remind her of how wonderful you are and how you truly do exist and how her family loves her so much. Bless each of us. Take care of us. Keep us in your care. Let us be faithful to you until it's time for you to bring us home. And it's in your Son, Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right. So there's many that I just reminded you of just in prayer, but keep them in your prayers and be mindful of them. We do know that there have been some that have had some updates, but as of late, I don't have a lot. Rhonda mentioned that her nephew, Ethan, still is going with lots of pain from his accident, specifically his left side still, a lot of pain still there. Going to be having x-rays on the 5th of March, so just keep him, he's still in a positive mood with things, but still keep him in your prayers. We haven't mentioned him for a while, so, and then Mike had mentioned an update on Steve Jones. Things have been going well, which Steve had kind of noted, kind of inching towards that, but I hadn't heard his results. He is doing well for the most part, but there's still a few nodules that they want to knock out, so he's going to be going through radiation soon to try to get those taken care of. And really, those are the biggest updates that I have, other than Sherry's out of town. She's in North Carolina, so she'll be there, and I think she said she's going to be coming back on Sunday. So she's the only one that I know that's traveling now. Welcome back, Brad and Micah, officially. And Emily's back too, I believe, Emily and Matt. So anything else? If not, get it to me
before Sunday, and I'll announce it. Men, we will be meeting on the 1st, so March 1st. Mark the calendars, 2 o'clock. All right, thank you, everyone.